Dre all day.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, we are not done. You get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves anybody out there, especially yourself. I mean, it's especially for you personally, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then what we do is we take all this, we put it together into one framework, one philosophy, one mentality, one approach. We did a hardcover book on this subject. We have a university that you can enroll in right now, and you are listening to the daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to will yourself into a good space. In other words, how to run on your own energy. Maybe when things aren't quite popping off the way that they need to be popping off right now, but you need that positive energy. You need it to keep going, because otherwise it's not going to happen without you. I mean, you're the only one who has the power to make it happen, and you're not quite sure you can right now. How can you actually do this? That's what we're going to talk about today. Now, this is related. I'm going to give you a cousin masterclass to this one right here. It's episode number 1373. The topic is how to change your energy. The reason why this is such an important conversation is because all of us, depending on how ambitious you are and how big your goals are, how big your dream and vision is right now in your life, and I'm assuming that you do have some ambitions and goals and dreams in your life. You listen to a show called Work on Your Game. Is things are not always going to be working perfectly. Even when you have a great strategy, even when you feel like you have all the information that you need, you feel like you're in the right place doing the right things, life is still going to be life, right? Life is going to happen, as they say, which means other people, places, things, products, systems, softwares, not everything is on the same page as you, meaning not everything's going to work the way that you need it to work. Not everybody's going to show up the way you need them to show up at all times. There are going to be challenges to your process. There are going to be times when your plans, you hit a snafu. And when I think I was in high school, the teacher told us what snafu means. It was like an acronym from I believe it came from the military world, and it stands for situation, normal, all fouled up, or all fucked up, however you want to call it, snafu. But those things are going to occur. Maybe you're in the midst of one right now. Maybe you're just trying to get started, and the whole situation is a snafu right now and is not really doing anything. How can you create some positive energy from yourself, from within yourself, and will yourself into a positive space, even though right now you're in a neutral space or maybe even a negative space where nothing is popping off? That's today's topic. So let's get to it. Point number one, today's topic, once again, how to will yourself into a good space and run on your own energy. First thing you got to do is get up off of your ass. This is step one in the process. Remember that energy generates energy. Energy is not generated by doing nothing. Energy is generated by doing something. When you go out and use up energy, then you have more energy. When you sit around and do nothing, you create the energy of lethargy, which means doing nothing. The law of inertia states that an object in motion will remain in motion, an object not in motion will remain not in motion. Neither one of them will change their state until or unless acted upon by an outside force. So you must use energy in order to generate more energy. So the first step is you got to stop sitting around looking at your situation and lamenting and feeling bad for yourself, feel sorry for yourself about the fact that things aren't really working right now. When you sit around in that state of lethargy, doing nothing, all you're going to do is sink deeper into the state that you're already in. In episode number 1528, I talked about how to cultivate and maintain positive energy. I already mentioned episode 1373. In episode 1216, I told you that your energy is more important than your skill. Episode 1196, we talked about channeling your energy. Episode 1087, how to have energy that attracts good things to you. Episode 1050, how to be the supplier of energy. Episode 739, how energy creates more of itself. And we have more. I'm not even going to list them all out here. Go to workonyourgamepodcast.com. You can see more about that. But getting up off your ass is the first step in bringing some positivity into what you have going on right now. As I stated earlier, the law of inertia, defined as, and this is I'm reading this straight off of the definition of it, a property by which matter continues in its existing state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line unless that state is changed by an external force. In other words, wherever you are right now and however things are going right now, they're going to keep going that exact same way until or unless something stops it and causes it to change. So if things are going great right now, things will keep going great until something you do or something that somebody else or something else does gets in the way of what you have going right now. And if nothing's happening right now, you will continue to have nothing happening until or unless probably you do something to change that nothing into something. So if things are not working for you right now, you got to start moving around and doing things. If nobody's knocking on your door, start knocking on doors. Start ringing some phones if nobody's calling you. If nothing's happening in your inbox, you need to start lighting up inboxes. You need to put some energy out so that you can get some energy back. And all of us understanding the law of karma, which states that the energy you put out is the energy that you get back, right? If you do good things, you're going to get good things back. You do negative things, you're going to get negative things back. Everyone agrees with karma. So if nothing's happening for you right now, nobody's knocking on your door, ringing your phone, or lighting up your inbox, all you got to do is start doing it. Go knock on some doors, ring phones, light up inboxes. And what's going to happen? Again, since you agree with the law of karma, you know that the energy is going to start coming back your way. This is the clear and absolute, undisputed, unquestioned first step to getting in the space that you want to be in, everybody, is being the outside force that acts on the current state of that you don't want. Whatever that current state is that you don't want, the first step is you need to utilize your understanding of the law of inertia and be the outside force that acts on that current state. So if the current state is not what you want, again, embrace the law of inertia. All right, what can I do to change this state? How can I be the outside force that acts upon it? Again, matter will continue in its existing state of doing nothing or doing something until or unless that state is changed by some external force. You must be the external force. Even though we're talking about you, you're the external force in the situation. All right? You are not the situation. You are just you. So if your situation happens to be applying to you, you can be the outside force for your situation and you can change the state of what's going on. So the first step is get up off of your ass. Don't sit around and hope that something changes, because you know that hope is not a strategy. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to generate your own energy and will yourself into a good space if you're not in that right now. Number 2 is make change. Now, we just talked about making change in enacting your understanding of the law of inertia in point number 1. When I say make change here, what I mean is do something new. Because clearly, whatever you've been doing up to this point that has led to this state of things not working, all right, that's not going to produce the result that you want. So we need to do something different. Something that maybe you would not have done had everything been working properly. Now you're going to at least be open to trying it because, well, look, you're not getting the results that you want. You might be at the end of your rope. You might be saying, all right, I've been trying this. None of these 3 things are working. All right, let me try things 4, 5, and 6 that I wasn't really open to before. But you know what? Now I'm open to them because things aren't working the way that they need to be working. Maybe you need to do something new that you never thought of before. Maybe you need to eliminate something old. You've been doing things 1, 2, and 3. They're not quite working. Maybe you need to delete numbers 1 and 2 and just focus on doing number 3. Maybe you need to get rid of some people that have been around that have led you to the state of you not having anything going on. This is what a lot of companies do. A lot of organizations do this when they feel like they need change. Any of you who watches sports, what do they do when a team is not being successful? Usually the first thing is they fire the coach. And sometimes they go a step further. They might fire the general manager, who's the person who's basically in charge of picking the players for the team. Sometimes they'll change ownership, but the owner's the one in charge. So that's not really part of the change process. Then they'll change players, right? Players will get traded. Players will not have their contracts renewed, and they bring in new blood into the organization, whether that's the coaching, whether that's the management, whether it's the players, the performers, the workers. They change things out because the culture of the situation needs to be changed. Maybe those will fix it. Maybe it won't, but they got to do something new. This is a good idea to change things around, and let's see what different things can we bring to the table, since obviously the old things aren't working. In an organization outside of the sports world, if a company is not really doing well and the board of directors decides, all right, we need to do something different here, what's the first thing they usually do? They vote to fire the CEO. The CEO loses their job. What happened to Steve Jobs when he was running the Apple company? And it wasn't necessarily that the company was doing so horribly. I mean, they weren't setting the world on fire. They were doing okay. But the reason he got voted out, or the reason he got kicked out of his own company, rather, is because he was voted out. The organization decided we need to do something different. For whatever reason, they decided that. You can read the Walter Isaacson book titled Steve Jobs, so you can learn about why that happened and the things that led up to it. Really good book, by the way. One of the best biographies that I've read, meaning a book about somebody's life that's not written by the actual person. is a great book. And I don't really like books that fit into that category. I'd rather read about somebody's life by reading it directly from that person. But this one was pretty well done. Walter Isaacson, again, it's called Steve Jobs. But they made that change. They needed to do something different. And any other company that maybe the CEO isn't the person who gets a book written about them, that company's underperforming, the CEO gets fired. They remove the CEO, and sometimes some of the people closest to that CEO who is now removed, they lose their jobs too. And it's not necessarily because they're not good at doing their job or that they're incapable of fulfilling their role, but because the powers that be, whoever that power happens to be, they decide, you know, we need to inject some new blood into this situation. We need to do something new. Whatever we were doing, that ain't working, so let's just do something different. When I got my first job out of college, I was working at Foot Locker. And I remember one of the managers, his name was Rob. He was an assistant manager. So there was the head manager, his name was Keith. He ran the store. And then there was Rob, he was an assistant manager. And then there was me, I was an assistant manager in training. So I would work with Rob a lot, and we would just talk about, he would talk sometimes about Foot Locker because he had been he probably still works at Foot Locker to this day. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw that Rob still worked there to this day because he's a guy who had got out of high school. He started working at Foot Locker when he was in high school. Then he graduated his way up to being an assistant manager. And I guess he was cool working there. He hadn't gone to college. I talked to him. He didn't really have any specific career aspirations. I guess he just wanted to make money and live however he wanted to live. But anyway, talking to Rob one time, he told me that every few months in the Foot Locker organization, they do this thing where a bunch of different managers get transferred to different stores and people get moved around. And then this guy's now working here and this guy now moves over here and this girl now works over there amongst the management, amongst different stores in each region. So this is just outside of, I was working at this mall called the Granite Run Mall, which has been completely, they kind of tore it down and rebuilt it into something new. I don't even know if it's open again yet, but it was outside of Philadelphia, close to Chester, Pennsylvania. But the whole Philadelphia region was one region of Foot Locker, and they would just move people around like chess pieces every few months just to change things up. Maybe to inject some new blood if they felt like the company, that is, felt like they could be generating more revenue than they were generating. And Rob said they call it a shakeup. And he said the shakeup might happen every 6 months. You might get moved here, and then I'll get moved there, and they get moved there. And I remember, interestingly enough, maybe a few months after I had stopped working at Foot Locker, I was in a Gallery Mall, which is downtown Philadelphia, like right on Market Street. And that's another place that had been, last time I was in Philly, the last time I went past the Gallery, actually not the last time I was there, but the last time I went past the Gallery, they had shut it down to do a complete remodeling of the mall. Now, I don't know what status it is now. Anybody who's in Philly who can tell me, you can let me know. But anyway, I was in the Gallery Mall, and there's a huge Foot Locker inside the Gallery Mall. And that's a Foot Locker that does a lot of revenue because there is right in the center of the city of Philadelphia. So people are coming in there all day, every day. And the managers at Foot Locker, at least the assistant managers, I don't know about the head managers, but the assistant managers, we were on commission. So every sale that went through with our employee number, we got a little commission off of that. I don't remember what the number was. I don't remember if it was 15% or 1% or 2%. I don't remember which of the numbers it was, but the commission mattered a lot. That factored a lot into our paycheck. So anyone working at that store made a lot of money in commission. And I remember walking past the store and I saw Rob in there working. Now, he didn't see me and I didn't stop to get his attention, but I remember seeing him in there working and I thought, man, he's probably pretty happy to be working there because he's probably making great money in commission. But the whole point, we're still on point number 2 here, making change. Doing something new, moving things around. I told you many times the story of when I got kicked off my college team. A new coach came in. A coach recruited me to the team as a sophomore, to the school as a sophomore. He got replaced with a new coach. And what happens often in college sports, this is not limited to just my situation. It's not limited to basketball. This happens in many sports, the sports that I know about being football and basketball. This happens all the time. When a new coach comes into a program, a lot of players, the incumbents who were there with the previous regime, do not survive into the next regime. And it's not necessarily because they are bad players and they are not good at playing their sport. I mean, they are there for a reason, right, in the first place. But it's because the new blood, that new coach, and the new coaching staff that comes with them, they want to bring in their own people. They want to bring in their own system. I know people who are coaches in college sports, people who are coaches in professional sports. When they get jobs, they get hired as the head coach, the person in charge, but not all the assistant coaches are going to stick around. Some of the assistants, some may stay and get to work with the new regime, and some of them are going to exit and be replaced by somebody else because the new blood wants to bring in new blood. That's just the way that it works sometimes in life. And it's not a bad thing. It's not necessarily a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a thing that the reason why the organization as a whole was making a change in the first place is because either maybe they needed to make a change because maybe whatever the old regime was just left. If the CEO of a company dies, okay, we need a new CEO. And that new CEO is going to make some changes just because they want to make changes. Or maybe the organization just felt like they were underperforming. We need to do something different. Like my college team, the story was we need to have this program perform in a better way. That wasn't really why the coach who recruited me to college got replaced. He told us the real reason, which was much more political than it was about the program's performance. But anyway, either way, he got replaced. New blood got brought in. New coaches got brought in. New players got brought in. Actually, none of the players from the previous regime survived into the next regime with that new coach. And this is sometimes how it works because understanding the law of inertia, most people probably couldn't explain it and would never cite this as the reason why they're making changes, but this is part of the process of generating new energy, of finding a way to will yourself into a better space is changing a whole bunch of things up. This is what people do. Eliminating something old, doing something new, throwing away junk that's been sitting around and collecting dust. Sometimes that junk can be people. Sometimes the junk can be habits. And we're going to do a master class on that very soon. Sometimes the junk is just certain practices, certain things that you've been doing or trying or thinking about that are just not producing, throwing them away. Opting out of doing something that you've always done when you realize that it isn't really serving you anymore, or you just decide that it's not serving you anymore. This is all, again, under the umbrella of the law of inertia. We as humans get into ruts of energy and results when we keep doing the same stuff over and over again, but that same stuff isn't working. Now, if you're doing the same stuff and it's working, then you could call that a rut too. You could call it boring. You could call it tedious. But if it's producing a result, you probably should keep doing it. But if you're doing the same things over and over again and they're not producing results, then you might want to do something different. That's a bad combination, doing the same stuff that's not working. It's good to do it when it is working. Thing is, understand something. There is no quote unquote same stuff that's always going to keep working forever. Eventually, everybody's going to need to make some type of change in some type of way. Any of you who works in digital marketing, if you run an advertisement and the advertisement is doing really well, it's getting you great results, eventually what's going to happen is what they call ad fatigue. Advertising fatigue means the same people that you're running those ads and targeting, they've seen the ads so many times that they become immune to the advertisement. They've seen it and they start to filter it out. Now you got to create a new ad. You might want to be advertising the same product and give the same idea in that advertisement, but you need a different advertisement simply because people get so used to the way that you've been doing it that they don't notice it anymore. So now you got to do the same thing, just do it in a different way so you can still get the exact same result. In life, people just need change. This is just the way that it works. Point number 3, topic here today is how to will yourself into a good space and run on your own energy. Third thing you got to do, take a chance. Make a bold move. John Gotti, the famous mob boss. And it's funny that I'm mentioning him in this episode that I'm talking about here because I come up with the topics for the show way in advance from when I actually end up recording each particular master class. But just today, before I started recording, I was watching a video of John Gotti's right-hand man, his underboss, guy by the name of Sammy Gravano, also known as Sammy the Bull. And he did this 2-hour interview. And he was talking about his life and his background, and he's telling all these stories about dealing with John Gotti and why he decided to flip and cooperate with the government and things like that. And then I see that John Gotti's mentioned here in these notes. The way that John Gotti became the boss of the mob in New York City back in the 80s was that he put a hit out on his own boss. He was working under a certain guy, Paul Castellano, and he put a hit out on this guy. Got that guy murdered, and he put himself in the position of being the head of the mob by doing that. I would say that's a risky chance-taking move that John Gotti took, and it worked. And this is why when I mentioned John Gotti's name, you knew exactly who I was talking about without me even having to explain who he was. That was a very bold move, and that was the space that he wanted to be in. It worked for him. Given his aim, that worked. Now, I'm not saying necessarily you need to go kill anybody in order to get yourself into the space you want to be in life, but there will come a time in life when you need to take a chance, you need to make a bold move. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck in this energy rut of things not really working the way that they need to work. So all three of these kind of work together, and all three of these points that we're talking about here today can actually work interchangeably. In life, it's human nature that people will stop you before you start moving to do something, but they will move out of your way after you have started to do something. I talked about this a lot of different times, and this works perfectly with the law of inertia and all those masterclasses I referred to you when it comes to changing energy and supplying the energy or shaking things up in life. Like I talked about in the Foot Locker, the shake up. If you go to people and say, if John Gotti had gone to a bunch of people and saying, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you think? If he had said it that way, they probably would have told him not to do it. Or somebody might have told the boss, tipped the boss off what John was thinking about doing. He might have been the one that got murdered. But because he decided to go ahead and take that bold move, nobody got in his way. And then after he did it, look, maybe he would have got retaliated against, and maybe it wouldn't have worked that way. Maybe there are people who tried it in his past that we don't know about because they got murdered as soon as they tried to do something like that. Or they got stopped from doing something bold, maybe not necessarily in a mob, but maybe some of you thought of doing something bold and you talked about it to enough people that they talked you out of it. Or you talked to yourself about it so much that you eventually talked yourself out of doing something bold that you would have done. And now you got to live the rest of your life kicking yourself because you'll never know what would have happened with that opportunity that is now gone. So sometimes in life, you just got to take a bold move and see what happens. There's a saying that I saw, and I'm paraphrasing it because I know I would butcher it if I tried to quote it. But the saying was, sometimes in life, you just need 30 seconds of courage and it can change everything. That 30 seconds of courage, well, that worked for John Gotti. Who knows how long he planned it out, how long it took. But for you, maybe you just need 30 seconds of bold energy, 30 seconds of audacity, maybe 30 days, maybe 1 week, maybe 1 moment of audacity and bold energy that can shake everything up and change the entire trajectory of how things are working for you, whether that's in your business, whether it's in a particular relationship, maybe it's for your life in general. But if you spend too much time thinking about it, contemplating it, talking to yourself, talking to everybody else, polling the audience, asking everybody what they think, you'll probably get yourself talked out of it because your rational, logical, fearful lizard brain mind, which all of us have as human beings, will keep you in the status quo position, keep you with whatever is known, whatever is safe, whatever we're used to. But if you want to do something bold, sometimes you have to overrule that lizard brain. You have to overrule that self-talk that says stay exactly where you are, and you got to move yourself to do something that you wouldn't otherwise do had you had more time to think about it. So in life, you want to get into a good space. You can't just sit around thinking about it and talking about it and writing it down. You got to start moving in that direction, and things will eventually line up to help you because, again, boldness moves objects and moves obstacles and it moves people out of your way. Even yourself. You might be one of the people in your own way. So you want to move yourself out of your own way, stop thinking about what you need to do and just do something. When you hesitate, when you second guess, when you question yourself, when you feel like you have to talk everything out and get approval from yourself or from anyone else for anything that you do, you will slow yourself down. You will put objects in your way, and you know what? Eventually you're just going to get, because human beings, we are all inherently lazy. You will, instead of trying to fight through those obstacles or go over and around those obstacles or through those obstacles, you'll just stop and say, you know what, let me just stay here where I'm at. This is more comfortable. It's more easy. It's faster. It saves me a lot of time. It's more efficient. And then before you know it, you'll look up 3 years that have gone by and you're still in the same spot with the same complaint and the same problems that you had before. Let's recap today's class, which is how to will yourself in a good space, i.e. running on your own energy when things aren't working the way that you need them to be. Point number 1, get up off of your ass, because remember, energy creates energy. The law of inertia states it is a property by which matter continues in its existing state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line unless that state is changed by an external force. In other words, this being the clear first step, you must go and be the outside force that acts on your current situation if nothing is happening the way that you want it to. Number 2, make change. Do something new. Eliminate something old. Throw away things that have been collecting dust. Opt out of something that you've always done when you decide that it is no longer serving you. We get into ruts of energy and results when we keep doing the same stuff, but that same stuff is not even doing anything for us. That's a bad combination. Point number 3, take a chance. Make a bold move like John Gotti did. Again, doesn't mean you need to shoot anybody in the head, but you do need to take a bold move and don't overthink it. When you overthink your actions and you need to get approval from something or someone else before you do anything, understand you will always get talked out of doing it. Make the bold move. Sometimes you need to overrule yourself and overrule the outside world and overrule those outside voices. In episode number 247, I told you how to stop overthinking your performance. When you want to get into a good space in life, you can't just think about it or talk about it. You got to actually take action, move your feet, start moving in that direction, and the world will move out of your way, and or it will line up to help you get to where you want to go. If you're ready to start moving in that direction and start doing the things that are going to get you seen, heard, and known so you can get the ROI for the game that you develop, then you need to join us at Work on Your Game University. You can learn all about it, choose your level, and get started right now getting into the direct codified Work on Your Game system by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all